This video is sponsored by Classic Football Shirts, the best place to get your classic and vintage football shirts. To get cheap retro Palace shirts, click the link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook, and in today's podcast I'll be looking over a result against Ipswich Town by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Frank de Boer and James McArthur after the game. So let's begin. Two late goals from James McArthur secured Frank de Boer's first victory as Palace boss and progression to the next round of the Carabao Cup, as the Eagles saw off a spirited challenge from Ipswich Town. The Scottish midfielder, making his first start of the campaign, ended a run without a goal since December, as Palace were forced to be patient against a youthful Tractor Boys side. But eventually their quality came to fore, with two fine strikes taking them into round 3. There was a scare as Bersan Salina pulled a goal back in injury time, but it was a mere consolation, allowing de Boer to taste victory for the first time in a competitive Eagles game. With the two sides making 18 changes between them from the weekend, it wasn't a surprise that the encounter took a while to liven up. 2 minutes in, Lokilo and Kaikai, partnered up front in the academy-produced front line with Lokilo, drove an attempt well wide, with Ipswich responding midway through the half when Danny Rowe found Row Z instead of the top corner. Seeing as they had named a lineup with an average age of under 20, Mick McCarthy's team more than held their own in the first 45 minutes against far more experienced opposition, and restricted Palace to shots from distance, with Patrick Van Aanholt trying his luck from 30 yards, but saw his effort from the right touchline sail high and wide. It took 44 minutes for the home supporters to finally have something to shout about, as they nearly retreated into the concourse at the break, having seen their team go ahead. After Palace won a free kick on the edge of the area, the returning young Carabao curled it left-footed over the wall. However, town keeper Dean Gherkin managed to push away the attempt to stop the half's best chance from nestling his net. Having taken virtually the whole of the first half to dirty the opposition's keeper's gloves, the Eagles were much quicker out of the traps after the restart, and Kaikai was unlucky to see his powerful blast from just outside the area not find the net after it slipped under Gherkin, but the shot stopper got enough on it to divert it away, and then Carabao fired just over as de Boer's men cranked up the pressure. The winger was the Eagles' biggest goal threat before he was replaced in 76 minutes, but a minute later the breakthrough finally arrived. McArthur picked up the ball from Lokilo in midfield and drove forward, and then after steadying himself on the edge of the box he curled the ball around Gherkin and into the net to finally end Ipswich's resistance. That took the pressure off Palace, and Lokilo twice came close to marking his debut with a goal when he drew a good stop from Gherkin after Andros Townsend slid the ball across the box. And then the youngster came within fractions when he showed good skill to turn into the area and then flashed an attempt goalwards but rattled the base of the post. But with 6 minutes to go, Palace's passage into the third round was secured as McArthur netted his second. Chung Lee laid the ball off to the overlapping Jeffrey Slop on the left, and he slipped it into the Scotsman who, in similar fashion to his first, bent the ball into the net to complete his brace. The 2-goal cushion would prove to be crucial, as in stoppage time the visitors pulled one back when a clip pass over the top released Ben Morris, who nipped in ahead of Timothy Fosu-Mensah to square for Salina, who found the net but it was too little too late. They made hard work of it, but Crystal Palace ensured they will be in the hat for the Carabao Cup third round tomorrow, with a narrow win against Ipswich Town. The Eagles needed 2 superb strikes from James McArthur to help them see off a spirited young Ipswich side, who made difficult life for Palace for large periods of the game at Sellers Park. But what do we learn from the game? Here are 5 things. Number 1. Old Johnny Boy. He was the star on the front cover of the programme, but there was still no place in the matchday squad for Johnny Williams. The Welsh international, who is well known to the Tractor Boys from 4 loan spells with Ipswich Town, has been training with the first team, but still hasn't featured in the squad for a competitive game yet this season. He signed a new contract in the summer, but it still doesn't seem to be happening for Williams at Palace, with the Welshman instead being involved with the Eagles under-23 fixture at Bolton Wanderers on Monday. Number 2. Wrap Benteke up in cotton wool. He didn't feature, but Crystal Palace looked toothless for large periods up front without Christian Benteke and lacked a main target man in the middle. Solid Kaikai and Jason Lokilo did try their best to make things happen up top, but there was something lacking for the Eagles, and with Benteke the club's only fit striker, this just showed how much they need him to stay fit. Number 3. Winging it. One thing seemed pretty clear from Palace's first few games of the season. No one had made the right wing-back role position their own. Andros Townsend featured there in pre-season. Joe Ward has filled the role in the Premier League game so far, and Patrick Vernano had played out of position there against Ipswich. Is this a position that Frank de Boer needs to strengthen before the end of the month? Number 4. Impact from the bench. With the game seemingly going nowhere for Palace and the Eagles finding it hard to break down a stubborn Ipswich side, de Boer changed the system and turned to his substitutes for some impact, and he got just that from Townsend, who seemed hungry to prove a point following his introduction in the place of Vernano. The former Tottenham and Newcastle winger immediately got involved and helped Palace to push forward, getting in some good positions and helping to open up the game and create chances for his teammates. And number 5, Macca's back. James McArthur gave a timely reminder of what Palace had been missing whilst he's been out of the side, scoring 2 superb goals to help the Eagles to victory. This was the Scottish international's first 90 minutes of the season for the first team, having come through a game with the under-23 side last week, and featured as a substitute against Liverpool on Saturday. And he would have done his chances of getting back into the side no harm with this display. So now I'm going to move on to the player ratings, but before we do that, don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at eCrystalPalace for all the latest news. And also, if you're on Facebook, do feel free to follow and join our Facebook group, which is a really good place to join in with conversations and discussions, and also a good place to share your opinions and photos with other fans. Now, another good place to share your opinion is in the YouTube comments, so if you are listening to the video on YouTube, then do feel free to drop a comment below the video with your player ratings, rating of all of the players' performances from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, and also just along with your views from the game. And that's so that anyone who comes to the video can obviously listen to my opinion, but also read what other fans had to say. And it also gives me an idea of what you guys who listen to the podcast, what your opinion of the game was as well. So if you do want to find any of these social media pages, then do check all the links that will be in the description below. But we're going to move on now to the player ratings, but I must say that as this is a League Cup game and it's not a league game, you know, I'm not going to give you the full summary of every player's performance. And this is probably because, and I've done this for the last few seasons, it's because I wouldn't say people don't care, but they don't care as much as the league, and they don't really have as much interest in the League Cup or the Carabao Cup, whatever it's called these days. So what I'm going to do is, because not many people are that interested and they don't care as much in the League Cup, I'm just going to give you a little summary of what happened, not go into too much detail because, like I said, it's not really of a big interest to everyone. So all I'm going to do this week is just give you the rating of the players, rating their performance out of 10, along with a little paragraph, 2 sentences about their performance, just to explain about it. And that's just rather than me going on in detail, because all you want to know is, if you don't have a lot of interest in the cup, you just want to know how the team played and what we could expect in the league game which is coming up. But we might as well start with the player ratings, starting in goal with Julian Speroni, who I'm going to give a 6. Not given anything to cope with bar a couple of back passes. Watch Rowe sent Ipswich's only chance well over the bar from distance. Produced the best bit of the half as he danced around the Ipswich striker with the ball at his feet to huge delight from the crowd. Left centre-back Joe Ward, who I'm also going to give a 6. Played on the left of the back three and looked pretty comfortable, more so than when he played at right wing-back of late. Again, he wasn't given a lot to do. Central centre-back Scott Dan, who I'm also going to give a 6. The usual mopping up at the back from the Palace number 6, although he did let Rowe wiggle free to get a shot off at one point. Taken off at half time for Fosu Mensah. Right centre back Martin Kelly, who I am going to give a 6. A rare start for the versatile Eagles defender, who started on the right of the back three and did perfectly fine. Did well to get back and break up any Ipswich break. Right wing back Patrick Vernano, who I am going to give a 6. Asked to play at right wing back, so could be forgiven for looking out of sorts, but was actually one of the Palace players offering the most going forward. Flashed in a shot from distance that sailed just over. Taken off on the hour mark for Townsend. Centre mid Jason Puncheon, who I am going to give a 5. Saw plenty of the ball but found it hard to create any meaningful chances. Wilted further in the second half, although he did seem to take a knock or fall awkwardly early on. wanting too much time when given rare chances to shoot, and gave away possession at times with sloppy passes. Centre mid James McArthur, who I am going to give an 8. Palace's busiest player in the first half, seeing a lot of the ball and looking to make things happen. Tried to do the same in the second half but grew increasingly frustrated. That was until he opened the scoring with a superbly taken goal. He settled in and another belter late on and was easily the Eagles' man of the match. Left wing back Jeffrey Slop, who I am going to give a 6. Restored to the Palace starting 11 in his natural home at left wing back, but only managed a few crosses in a quiet half. Didn't get much better in the second half although, and he was asked to drop back into the back three for most of it. Centre mid Kaikai, who I am going to give a 6. Started in the front three but found himself dropping deeper and deeper to try and get the ball. Ended up playing in the midfield three as Palace ended the half playing 3-5-2. Saw more of the ball in the second half and started to pull the strings. Forward Jason Lokilo, who I am going to give a 6. A quiet first half from the young Belgian attacker who would have hoped to at least get one chance on goal. Got more involved after the break with some nice touches and should have scored when he clattered the post late on. Forward S2E5 Kaikai, who I am going to give a 7. The young striker looked bright and flashed in a shot that went wide early on but found decent chances hard to come by. Drilled in a shot on goal early in the second half that was denied by a strong Gherkin save, and then blazed one over a minute later after creating space on the edge of the box. Taken off for Lee with 15 minutes left. Now to move on to the subs. Timothy Fosu-Mensah, who I am going to give a 6. A half-time replacement for Dan at the back and found himself getting forward a few times despite being in the back three. Andros Townsend, who I am going to give a 7. A replacement for Patrick Vanano on the hour mark, and instantly Palace played about 10 yards further up the pitch. Put in a few inviting crosses and created countless chances late on. Chong Lee, who I am going to give a 6. A replacement for S2E5 Kaikai with 15 minutes to go, and Palace immediately scored, even though he had nothing to do with it. Now to move on to my Man of the Match award, but before I do that and give you my Man of the Match and who I thought had the biggest influence on the game, I'm now going to give you the 4 nominations I put forward for the Man of the Match award, and they were Martin Kelly, James McArthur, Andros Townsend and Johan Cabaye. So starting in 4th place with 4% of the votes was Andros Townsend, closely followed up by Martin Kelly who had 5% of the votes in 3rd place. In 2nd place, once again very close with 6% of the votes was Johan Cabaye, which means, considering he did score 2 goals, James McArthur with 85% of the votes in 1st place is the winner of this week's Man of the Match. So congratulations James, a very solid performance from you again, and considering you've only just come back from injury, you put in a pretty good performance, and considering it was quite a lacklustre performance from some of the players in the team, you certainly rose above the rest and scored them 2 fabulous goals. But just to go through just quickly why I put these 4 players on there, obviously Martin Kelly hasn't played in a while, played a few under 23 games in pre-season, looked pretty solid in this game. He was probably the better defender of the back three and I thought he defended quite well, so maybe he may not get sold to someone like Burnley and maybe he'll stay as a backup, because certainly from this showing he certainly's got the quality to do so. Obviously James McArthur, obviously he's won the poll, but I think obviously he scored the 2 goals, he ran that box to box midfielder role really well. Andros Townsend came off the bench, made an impact. I said this already earlier on, when he came on we played 10 yards further up the pitch. He added pace, a little bit more energy to the side, and obviously was trying to create loads of opportunities. And Johan Cabaye as well, playing in that midfield role. He was starting to play advanced, moved further back, which meant McArthur could go forward, and which meant Cabaye had a little bit more control of the midfield. And certainly on this showing he showed that he still got the quality to play for Palace. But I think all of these players had different attributes. If you look at the last 3, so McArthur, Townsend, Cabaye, their sort of attacking attributes and their sort of control of the midfield was fantastic, and Martin Kelly for his defensive contribution as well. But I think there's only really one winner. If you get sort of the perfect brace, which is scoring 1 with your left, 1 with your right. So James McArthur got 2 goals, 1 in his left foot, 1 in his right foot. He certainly deserves my Man of the Match award. So congratulations McArthur, you not only win my Twitter poll, but you also won my Man of the Match, who I thought the best player was. But certainly, yes, McArthur fully deserves it, but I think the performances from Kelly, Townsend and Cabaye certainly need to be given credit for, because I thought they were fairly solid. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings and my Man of the Match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Frank de Boer and James McArthur following the game.
James, two brilliant goals tonight. Two of the best you've scored, do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. Good play for Jeff to spot me and obviously put it in, and same with Jason. Obviously they were instrumental in the goal as well.
Yeah, you scored one for the 23s just like that last week as well. Been working on your shooting?
Not really. I think the balls were quite good to strike as well tonight, so they'll take a bit of the credit as well.
And the game today, it took a while to break them down. Were they tough opponents to play against?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for a lot of young kids, they were credit to their football club. Made it very hard, limited us to a couple of chances in the first half, and then I think they tired a bit, and as soon as we scored, they started opening up.
Do you think the key to us progressing in this league is working out how to play in situations like that? Because it's a home form in the past couple of years where it's been hard to break teams down.
Yeah, it is. You're definitely right there. We need to find a way in every single game. Every game's different, and we need to change the style of play, but we've got a manager there that will do that.
Great to see you back on the pitch. Obviously you missed out on pre-season. What was the injury problem?
I got a hamstring injury first week into pre-season, so not where I want to be in fitness-wise, but working hard to get there.
But great today. Saw you and Johan in the middle of the park. Give the manager something to think about ahead of the weekend. Yeah,
that's all we can do. Try and play well, try and impress, and try and make it hard for him, because there's three very good midfielders in there just now.
Frank, first win of the season, into the next round of the Cup. Are you pleased with the performance tonight?
Yeah, especially, for a lot of players, it was really the first time, they play an official game, something at stake. So, for example, also players like Kaikai and McArthur coming back from injury. So it was very pleased to see those players on the pitch again and make their minutes. They can also show, how far and how good they are right now, and I'm very pleased with the spirit that they showed. And I think the first half we couldn't get really the pressure on, but the second half we did it, and then we had the control of the game and we created a lot of chances, and at the end deserved win, of course.
You mentioned James McArthur, two great goals. He scored one like that for the under-23s last week as well. Yeah. Has he given you plenty to think about ahead of Saturday?
No, but he gives other options, and that's very good for a manager. That somebody is waiting, to get his chance, and so that's they have to give me that pressure, and so I'm very pleased with James, how he filled it in right now, and but also Johan is of course a very important player, and but everybody who played for the first Martin Kelly did a fantastic job. So Sloopy running 90 minutes down the sideline. So I'm very pleased for everybody.
Was it a tough game tonight in the fact that they were quite hard to break down? But was it good practice for playing at home? We need to find a way to get past teams when they're sitting back.
Yes, of course. And I think they in the first half they're not really sitting back, but we couldn't find really our free man. And in the second half we improved in that, and especially after 50 minutes. I changed the system to 4-3-3 with Andros Townsend on the left and Jason Lokilo on the right. And at that moment, we really starting to get in control, and we locked them on in their own box, and they couldn't get out anymore. And in that moment, it's waiting for the goal, and two fantastic goals, of course.
And finally, away from the pitch, this week Dougie Friedman has come in as sporting director. How will that role help you for the rest of the transfer window and beyond?
No, he's familiar of the Premier League, familiar of the club history, and he worked already here. I think he can be very helpful for us, the organisation around the academy, around the club and everything. So I always worked with a technical director, and so it takes some steam off the things that I have to concern about, and he can fill that role in, of course.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Frank de Boer and James McArthur had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Ipswich Town. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Swansea. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace!